What's up guys, Mike here with Card Juice Sports Cards. As you can see, I'm bouncing around my room a bit in the last few videos. I'm finally getting this closet turned into the sports card warehouse. Got my cards over here in a new case now. Got my scanner over there. Lots of stuff happening. Can't wait to share it with you when it's all done. But for now, thanks for bearing with me. I want to go over 7 tips for selling sports cards on eBay. I've been actively selling now for about a year and a half. I say active because before that I wasn't really selling seriously. But since January 2022, I've sold over 1,000 cards. So big milestone celebration here as well. I've bought collections on eBay and I've made profit from those collections. I've also lost a lot of money. This is not a get-rich-quick hobby. You have to be very careful and very strategic, and you might not make money. But I do believe that you can make money. So I want to share with you 7 tips that I've learned so far on my journey selling sports cards on eBay. So head on over to Card Juice Sports Cards on eBay, show some support. Like I said, over 1,000 cards now, really appreciate it. And if you want to unlock the secret of selling and investing in low-end sports cards on eBay, this channel is your go-to source for expert tips, honest insights, and strategies to help boost your eBay sales. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you want to stay ahead in the card selling game, maximize your profits, and take your eBay card selling business to the next level. You can also check out my hockey card channel at Puck Mike, where I open and talk about hockey cards. Okay, number 1 tip for selling on eBay: build a good reputation. I can't tell you how many interactions I've had with customers that have said, "You're a great seller, other sellers are garbage." Now, building a good reputation you think would be obvious, but to do that you have to be a decent business person, and I don't know if you've noticed, decency is hard to come by. Here's an example. Sometimes I read reviews of customers of other sellers on eBay, and I've noticed things like, "I bought the card, but the seller canceled the order and said it was no longer for sale, only to see it listed again at a much higher price." It's not your customer's fault that you listed a card at a certain price, forgot about it, the market rates increased for that card, and someone made a purchase before you had a chance to raise the price. Now, if we're talking $2 and it's now $1,000, okay, let's chat. But that much of a gap usually doesn't happen. Another example where you can be a decent seller and build a good reputation is to acknowledge when a card is lost or is damaged and deal with the issue promptly. Now, I don't offer returns in my eBay store, but I've had a few cases where the seller has reached out showing visible damage to the card that wasn't there when I shipped the card. So likely it occurred in shipping. I refund it immediately. I don't even ask questions. If I can see the card is damaged and it wasn't when I shipped it, there really isn't anything to discuss. The buyer thought they were getting one thing based on the photos and they got something else. Now, you can't use that in every case because sometimes the buyers, unfortunately, are wrong, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later. But if you can see the card's damaged, refund the money. Now, why do you want to build a good reputation? Because it'll lead to more sales. People want to know they're doing business with someone honest and reputable. So build a good reputation and don't be a shady seller trying to make a quick buck on a one-time purchase. Because guess what? That seller's not going to come back to your store for future purchases. And in such a crowded space, long-term and loyalty is the name of the game. Okay, number 2, start small. You do not have to be Burbank Sports Cards. And unless you have a massive warehouse somewhere, or able to get hundreds of thousands of cards listed in like a week, you're not gonna be. Start off very small when you're just growing your store. It's impossible to know what direction you want to go in when you're just starting out. You might have an idea. Maybe you want to only sell graded cards, only autos, only hockey, only football, every sport. But that idea is going to change over time as you sell more items, I promise you. And as you interact with more customers and see what the market is paying for certain things. So keep things small when you're starting out. Now, that doesn't mean you can't experiment with different collections, different sports, or different memorabilia when you're first starting out if that's what you're selling. But it means you don't have to buy 10,000 cards right out of the gate just to be competitive. Buy 1 or 2 collections you think that you can sell and list those. See how it goes for a while, then as you sell some of those, or maybe don't sell some of those, buy some more and keep going. Try something else. Keep doing what works, do more of what works, and do less of what doesn't work. But don't rush it. Number 3, list, list, list. Now, you might think this is contradictory to the last piece of advice, but what I mean by this is keep listing new cards, even if it's 1 a day or 3 a week. You want to keep turning your inventory over, even if you're not selling that much of what you're listing. If you're thinking, I'm just going to buy these 1 or 2 collections, list all the cards, and wait for that money to roll in, then think again. This is a market that drastically changes with player performance, hype, and other market forces. So even if you're starting small, keep that inventory turning over. Maybe an item hasn't sold in 3 months. You do more research, you see 0 recent sales on eBay. It's just a base card, so you're going to unlist it and replace it with an insert card that has a better chance of selling. You also want to keep adding new inventory to keep your buyers and the followers of your store engaged, and show them that you're always adding new items. It doesn't even have to be new items. Maybe you got some new vintage cards you want to list. eBay will recommend to buyers who have saved you as a seller some of the new items that you've listed. And it also looks good when someone visits your store and they see new listing. And I don't know if this is true, but I read a comment in one of the forums that being active consistently listing on eBay helps the eBay algorithm promote your listings. Now, I'm not sure how accurate that is considering sellers can pay a percentage to promote items, but it may help eBay promote your items to potential buyers when eBay recommends items to buyers that are similar to the items they've been searching for. This is honestly how I find a lot of my inventory. I find 1 or 2 items that I like or collections I like. Even if I didn't buy it, it's right in the category that I want to buy, so I'll like it, and then eBay will recommend more items like that item that sometimes I find that I want to buy. You can usually see these items by scrolling to the bottom of a listing or the main search page where it'll show more like this. Next up, don't be afraid to block buyers. You can block usernames on eBay from messaging you or buying items in your store. I think they might actually be able to still view your items, but they can't purchase them. Folks, there are a lot of negative buyers out there who are going to complain no matter what item they receive, how they receive it, when they receive it, what condition they receive it in. I had someone buy a card recently who messaged me saying, the card was damaged in shipping. Actually, what they said to me was, why did you send me a damaged card? Thankfully, they sent me a photo. After looking at the pictures they sent me and the pictures from the original listing, the card condition appeared exactly as it was in the listing. I didn't see any damage that was done through shipping, so likely the seller didn't take the time to review the photos before making the purchase, or once they held the card, they just weren't happy with it for some reason. I don't have time to argue with someone who is clearly going to be difficult over a $2-3 card. I don't offer returns in my store like I said, but I made a one-time exception and refunded the item. But what I did is I blocked the buyer from making additional purchases in my store. I don't really like doing this, but I just don't have time, nor am I going to deal with customers who are always going to be difficult. If they complain once and they see they can take advantage of you, they're gonna do it again, I promise you. You might be thinking, oh, if I do that, I'm losing potential business. But repeat customers who consistently take advantage of you are not the business that you want in the long term, because ultimately they're gonna cost you more money than they're going to make you. You want loyal customers who aren't going to take advantage of you. And as a customer, if you're a great customer and a loyal customer, and if the company that you're loyal to is smart, they will eventually reward you for being a loyal customer. Coupons, free items, extra items. Eventually you're going to get free stuff anyway if that company is smart. So don't just be a good seller, but be a good customer as well. Don't be afraid to block buyers if you're a seller. Next up, plain white envelopes are okay to ship in. You might see some collectors refer to plain white envelopes as PWE. This is how I ship my cards. Card, sleeve, top loader, team bag, and in the envelope. Now I offer free shipping on most of my items. If I shipped everything in a bigger package like a bubble mailer, it would mean more cost for supplies, significantly more cost for USPS shipping, and more costs to the buyer. Any buyer that complains if you ship items in a plain white envelope is fooling themselves if they think that reputable sellers don't ship this way as well. Now you definitely want to make sure it's still protected even though you're using a plain white envelope. Don't just put it in a card sleeve and throw it in the envelope. Using the method I use, there's 4 layers of protection from the card to the outside of the envelope. That's the sleeve, top loader, team bag, and the envelope. I believe plain white envelopes go through a roller at the USPS to make sure they're not wider than they should be, so these added layers of protection will help protect against that. I promise you reputable sellers use this method. Number 1, because I bought from them. Number 2, because they've talked about it in their videos on YouTube. Burbank Sports Cards, JMax Sports Cards, Sports Card Flipping Guy, Flipping Sports Cards Guy, the guy who flips sports cards, all ship in plain white envelopes. Don't let a buyer convince you otherwise. It's a standard for many sellers in the industry. The only exception here is more expensive cards. Now if I have a card that's $20 or $30 that somebody buys, I'm probably going to ship that in a bubble mailer to make sure it's better protected. And I can still offer free shipping because usually my profit margins are bigger on that sale. So just to recap, plain white envelopes are fine as long as you add some layers of protection, and with more expensive cards, it's better to use a bubble mailer or something with more packaging. Next up, get an eBay storefront and utilize store categories. Every time I come across a seller on eBay or YouTube that I want to learn more about, the first thing I do is I visit their eBay store. And some are not that great, to be honest. That's where buyers are going to learn about who you are and what you're about. Now mine can definitely be better. It's not perfect and I'm working on that as much as I can, but make sure you have a good logo. I'll talk about the store categories in a minute. Utilize newly listed items, sales if you have one going on, the about section, I just updated that one myself again, and categories. Yes, there's times when I want to support a buyer and I go to their store and I think, I wonder if they have any jersey cards. I type that in, nothing comes up. Sometimes some items will come up, but that's not always in the title, and it takes longer to search that way. It's much easier to shop by clicking a button and going through the different categories. Here people can shop all of my categories: autos, jerseys, hockey, football, graded cards, and some overlap of course, like a graded hockey card would be in both categories. So bottom line, if you have an eBay storefront, which I don't think you have without paying for at least the basic subscription, make sure it's looking good. Don't think no one's looking at it because people are checking you out. Last thing on the list, use variation listings sparingly. Now variation listings are a good way to maximize real estate in your store, but consider the behavior of the buyer specific to the cards that you're trying to sell. I rarely look at variation listings because it takes too much time. Plain and simple as that. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a variation listing come up in a search result. I click on it, the card I'm looking for is sold out, or worse, it's not even in the list. I don't have time for this as a buyer, and I know many other people don't as well. And I have a few variation listings in my store for some base cards, but I use them sparingly because I'm trying to focus on selling singles. And when someone searches for a card, and right there is a beautiful image of the exact card that they're looking for, next to a listing with a generic photo that says, cards 1 to 1,000, you pick! Which listing do you think is going to catch the buyer's eye? Even if it takes more time in real estate in my store, I use variation listings sparingly because I believe that listing the specific card will catch the buyer's attention more and ultimately have a higher potential for sales. Not to mention, variation listings are not that much quicker to list. Sure, if you just throw up some generic photo of the set, list the variations of each card without putting up photos for each one, which I have done, I will admit, and I've probably sold 4 or 5 of those cards, and other people have done and have made some sales that way, then maybe it would be quicker, yes. And maybe for some listings that have less potential for individual searches, like base cards of not so popular players, then yes, maybe it could work. But overall, is it even worth it at that point? If you're trying to compete with Burbank sports cards, like I said, maybe it's worth it for you at that point. But likely you're the little guy like me and you need a way to stand out, and variation listings don't help you do that. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed these tips. Still a lot more things you can do to help boost your sales on eBay that I'll be sharing on this channel as I go through the journey myself. And like I said, we hit a milestone. We sold over 1,000 cards in our eBay store. So awesome. If you want to show support, please head over to that store, buy a card, leave a comment, let me know that YouTube sent you that. I really appreciate it. And if you want to unlock the secrets of selling and investing in low-end sports cards on eBay, this channel is your go-to source for expert tips, honest insights, and strategies to help boost your eBay sales. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button for me if you want to stay ahead in the card selling game, maximize your profits, and take your card selling business to the next level. You can also check out my hockey card channel at Puck Mike, where I open and talk about hockey cards. I'll see you in the next video.